Welcome to Strawberry Audio. If you enjoy the story, please give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. After a major flood, my colleague and I found two orphaned children on the road. The older sister was well behaved and understanding, so my colleague adopted her. The younger sister was weak and sickly. I couldn't bear to abandon her, so I took the little girl home to care for her. I took her to the hospital for treatment, studied with her, and later even sent her abroad to study. Many years later, my colleague and I traveled together to Yitu town in Manchuan, a place with beautiful scenery. That afternoon, an earthquake occurred, and both of us were injured. During the initial earthquake, medical resources were extremely limited. Yet my child, the one I had raised for so many years, abandoned me as I lay dying to choose to save my colleague instead. The one who was less seriously injured. Sorry Mom, Catherine Stevens needs blood more. I looked at the not so serious wound on Catherine's leg, then at my own body losing blood severely. I finally understood that I had never been her first choice. It turned out that from the beginning, she had wanted Catherine Stevens to adopt her. I died from severe injuries. After coming back to life, I returned to the moment of the first day I met the two sisters. Mom, it's so cold. I lay on the stretcher, my face pale, my whole body cold from excessive blood loss. Violet Thompson was holding a bag of blood in her hands at that time. I looked at the child with pleading eyes. She hesitated for a second, then resolutely turned and walked away. Sorry Mom, Catherine Stevens needs blood more. I looked again at the non-serious tear on Catherine's leg, then at my own body losing blood and having no strength left. I no longer had the strength to grab her hand. My hand that had once held onto her clothes, following each hurried step, fell limply down. Violet, I only hoped she would recognize her conscience. Seeing the bed beneath me already soaked red with blood, seeing my face pale white without a drop of blood left. But no, she hurriedly left without ever looking back. I don't know how much time passed. I grew colder and colder, consciousness sinking into unconsciousness. Hurry, there's a patient here in shock from blood loss. A worried voice rang out beside my ear. Where's the blood bag? I remember there was one more compatible blood bag. It's gone. How can it be gone? The seriously injured patient needs emergency care. Is there anyone else with the same blood type brought in? 2 people were brought in. The other one wasn't seriously injured. Not seriously injured yet used the last blood bag. Who gave permission? It was Violet Thompson. The voices afterward grew more and more distant. Despite someone frantically bandaging and encouraging me, I still couldn't resist the darkness swallowing me. If I could choose again, I would rather have never adopted Violet. So cold, I couldn't control my trembling. Opening my eyes again, I saw 2 thin children standing before me. The sky was still drizzling. The ground in the refugee area was wet and muddy. Traces of the flood remained everywhere. 2 orphaned children from the flood area were brought by staff again, their eyes full of hope looking at us. Comrades, this time the flood covered too wide an area, the water rose too quickly, there are many orphans who need everyone's help. The older sister named Grace Thompson had relatively neat hair, her bright eyes looking at us. Ma'am, if possible, please take my younger sister with you, she's been sick for a long time. After saying this, the little girl pushed her younger sister forward. Violet was thin, weak and pale, her small body unsteady, loose clothes hanging on her tiny frame. Catherine Stevens stepped forward, her interested eyes taking the older sister's hand, looking her up and down. Little sister, do you want to come with me? I knew it was exactly the older sister's yielding and understanding attitude that moved Catherine Stevens. Hearing Catherine's words, the older sister was moved and thanked her repeatedly, but still stubbornly continued to persuade her to help her sister. Mom, my younger sister is very smart, can you take her along too? I know how to cook and do laundry, I'll take care of her and won't bother you. Catherine Stevens looked at the weak younger sister and sighed. My family already has a son, I can only adopt one girl. Without waiting for the older sister to continue, Catherine turned and pointed to me. She doesn't have children yet and is also looking to adopt a child. The older sister looked at me with tearful, moved eyes. Beyond everyone's expectations, I only smiled slightly, showing no closeness to the 2 little girls. I shook my head and said to Catherine Stevens, sorry, I've changed my mind, I only want to have my own biological children. When I previously adopted Violet, the child was weak and constantly ill. I had to take time off work to take her to the doctor. Family and colleagues were all unhappy, because I couldn't take care of the house or focus wholeheartedly on work. Once on a rainy night, the child had a high fever that wouldn't break, so I had to carry her running to the hospital. On the way, I slipped and fell, and no one knew. At that time, I was pregnant. That fall caused the unborn child to be lost. After that, I couldn't get pregnant again. The relationship between my husband and me gradually became cold, and we eventually divorced. I kept nothing, only keeping Violet alone, wholeheartedly raising her to adulthood, providing her education, then sending her abroad to study. After graduating and returning, she became the chief doctor of a first-class hospital in the city. As for me, I had already retired. At that time, I accepted Catherine's invitation to travel with her to Manchuan. I never expected that the only trip after so many years would become the last journey of my life. Because Violet rushed to save Catherine's mother, I was left forever in that earthquake-devastated land. This time I decided to let the child fulfill her wish to be adopted by Catherine's mother. I wouldn't take her anymore. Under Grace Thompson's continuous pleading, Catherine finally agreed to adopt the younger sister Violet, leaving Grace behind. Grace was 11 years old, quite old compared to adoption standards. Although the child was very well behaved and understanding, because she missed this adoption opportunity, she was eventually sent to an orphanage. A bowl of rice brings gratitude, a bushel of rice brings resentment. I didn't dare adopt anyone else. But that child's bright, sparkling eyes were always deeply imprinted in my mind. I could never forget those tiny hands that had resolutely pushed her younger sister forward. Therefore, I asked friends in the same system to look for news about her. Learning that she had entered the orphanage, every month when I received my salary, I would send a donation to the institution. Initially, the director often asked the children to write thank you letters to donors, both to express gratitude and to teach the children to be grateful for life. The first month, I received 3 thank you letters from 3 different children. Looking at those childish and innocent handwriting, my heart was deeply moved. I also wrote back to each child. But over time, the number of letters received gradually decreased. It was understandable. As children grew older, they had more of their own thoughts. After what I had experienced with Violet in my previous life, I wasn't disappointed either. I even thought perhaps the children had been helped by other good people, or they were too busy with studies to have time to write letters anymore. Only Grace Thompson wrote me a thank you letter every month, clear, neat, and complete. Once in a reply letter, I asked her why she persisted in writing thank you letters to me every month. In her next letter, she replied, "Since my younger sister Violet was adopted, I haven't contacted her, but I still miss her very much and always want to know how she's living. Since you know her adoptive mother Catherine Stevens, you might occasionally hear news about her. Moreover, you persist in sending money to help the orphanage every month. I'm truly grateful. Currently I'm still young, the only thing I can do is write thank you letters to you." I smiled, not placing too much importance on it. I did charitable work out of kindness, not needing anyone's recognition. I helped people with my conscience, not expecting anything in return. Perhaps it was exactly this distance that created something beautiful. Because I didn't adopt her, I wouldn't be disappointed. 3 months after returning from the flood area, I discovered I was pregnant. My husband Marcus Quinn was extremely happy, running around taking care of everything for me. He did all the housework and drove me to and from work every day. The relationship between us also grew closer. All the neighbors teased me. Now sister is the treasure of the family. Without the burden of children, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to work. While many people asked for maternity leave and delayed progress, I excellently completed every assigned task. It was exactly this comparison that made leadership trust and value me even more. By the end of my pregnancy, my feet were swollen. My mother-in-law, not minding the long distance, came with big and small bags of eggs and homemade poultry to take care of me. This was something I had never experienced in my previous life. In my previous life, during this period, I was busy every day taking Violet to the hospital, asking for leave time after time. I myself had no time to take care of myself, always looking disheveled and tired. Every time leadership saw my leave requests, they would frown, but thinking I was adopting flood orphans, they had to accept it. Over time, colleagues in the same group began to feel dissatisfied. I had no share in any awards or commendations for competition. Because I frequently had to care for Violet at the hospital, I neglected home. My husband rarely saw his wife when he came home, feeling resentful but unable to express it in words. Eventually, the two of us grew distant. Once, my mother-in-law in the countryside fell ill. My husband was on a business trip at the time. So he quickly had someone send a message asking me to return to the countryside to care for her. Right at that time, I had already taken leave from the company and didn't receive the message. When colleagues came to the house looking for me, no one was there. I was still at the hospital caring for Violet. Because of this misunderstanding, it wasn't until my husband returned from his business trip that he discovered I had never returned to the countryside to care for his mother, and hadn't even sent money for medicine. The delayed treatment left my mother in-law's already weak health with lasting effects. This became a huge scar in everyone's hearts. Because of this, my mother-in-law could no longer come to the city to take care of me herself. 10 months of pregnancy, just waiting for the day of birth. After several hours of painful struggle, my daughter cried out her first greeting to the world. Looking at her soft, fluffy hair, her rosy little face, and her bright black eyes, my husband and I couldn't stop looking at her. So this was how blood ties created such a magical bond. My daughter was very healthy, rarely getting minor illnesses. A healthy child is easy to care for. During the day, my mother-in-law helped, and at night my husband took turns caring for the child. Thanks to this, I had a complete postpartum confinement month. After confinement, my figure had almost recovered, my complexion was rosy, and my skin was healthy and radiant. After 3 months of maternity leave, I returned to work. Colleagues saw me return looking radiant and joked, "After having a child, you look like an unmarried girl." I just smiled, collected my mood, and began to focus wholeheartedly on work. In the second month after returning to work, I unexpectedly received good news. Due to my excellent performance throughout my pregnancy, I was selected for the commendation list, got a salary increase, and was promoted 1 level. I smiled brightly, holding the certificate of commendation and riding the bicycle reward, happily returning home. My mother-in-law was standing at the door holding my granddaughter, waiting for me to return for feeding time. The child seemed to have a telepathic connection, stretching her chubby little arms toward me, her bright black eyes staring intently, her small mouth slightly open making cooing sounds. My heart seemed to melt as I quickly parked the bike, washed my hands, and took the child into my arms. While breastfeeding, I calculated the time from my previous life. It seemed that when my mother-in-law fell ill, it was due to the hot weather causing her underlying condition to flare up. I took the bonus money and gave it to my husband, asking him to buy a new floor fan to put in mother's room. On the weekend, I also found an excuse to take my mother-in-law for a comprehensive health checkup. Aside from slightly high blood pressure, her health was completely stable. 2 weeks later, when the time came that my mother-in-law had fallen ill in my previous life, this time she remained healthy. I breathed a sigh of relief. When relatives are healthy, the whole family is reunited. That is the foundation of happiness. Because of my promotion, I transferred to a new work unit. I hadn't seen Catherine Stevens for a long time, so I wasn't clear about Violet's situation. One day I received another letter from Grace Thompson. In the letter, she described in great detail her life and studies, and happily reported that she had entered middle school. At the end of the letter, she cautiously asked me about her younger sister Violet's situation. Accompanying the letter was a very cute tiger head hat, where you could clearly see many mended stitches. Grace wrote, "The weather has turned cold. I asked the director to teach me how to sew a hat to give to the little one, hoping she stays healthy." I looked out the window. Autumn wind was blowing and rustling, yellow leaves scattered all over the courtyard. I smiled and put the tiger head hat on my daughter. It fit perfectly, and was incredibly cute. In my reply letter, I thanked her for the meaningful gift, saying that both my daughter and I loved it very much. I also advised her to focus on her studies, work hard continuously, and always step toward the sun. I added that because I had transferred to a new job, I was no longer at the old unit and didn't know much about Violet's situation. However, I gave her Catherine Stevens' contact information. From then on, Grace continued to send letters every month, never interrupting. A child who knows gratitude and is full of feeling is truly precious. Time passed very quickly. It had been more than a year since I returned to normal life after the flood. Occasionally, I still thought about Violet, the child I had single-handedly raised. Remembering the same time last year, she had contracted hepatitis, and I had stayed in the hospital's isolation ward for 2 months to care for her. Now she was probably being well cared for by Catherine Stevens, and her condition had likely improved. Afraid that Grace would worry, I didn't mention anything about the hepatitis outbreak that spread almost throughout Shanghai in my letters to her. Unexpectedly, not long after, I received a package sent by Grace. Inside were various herbs like schizandra, tangerine peel, and licorice, carefully packaged. These herbs all had effects supporting hepatitis treatment. Clearly she had learned somehow that Shanghai was experiencing a hepatitis outbreak. In 1988, a hepatitis A outbreak occurred in Shanghai. Hospitals were packed with patients, forced to open temporary beds in various work units. This information was widely reported in major newspapers. That child, with her small ability, had gone to pick Chinese herbs herself, dried them, and sent them to me. One day, wearing a mask, I went to the hospital to buy blood pressure medicine for my mother-in-law and unexpectedly met Catherine Stevens again. As soon as she saw me, she complained continuously. It turned out Violet was hospitalized right in this hospital. Catherine said. If I had known, I would have adopted the older sister instead. This child has such poor constitution, getting sick every few days. Now the whole city is experiencing a hepatitis outbreak, and she's following suit getting sick too, I asked. Is she the only one in the house who got sick? Exactly. This disease is also contagious. The whole family blames me, saying I shouldn't have adopted her. She sighed. I consoled her. As long as you pay attention to treatment, this disease can still be cured. She shook her head. There's another young child at home. I don't have time to take careful care of her. Now I just stop by daily to bring 2 meals. A child only 7 or 8 years old, suffering from hepatitis, having to stay in the hospital alone. Just thinking about it was heartbreaking, but I no longer felt pity. In my previous life, exactly around this time, I had voluntarily entered the isolation ward to care for her bit by bit, day and night without leaving. Yet in her heart, she still only thought about Catherine Stephen's mother. Now 2 meals placed outside the isolation ward door, that was what the child deserved to receive. On the way back from the hospital I happened to meet an old colleague again. Today was really an eventful day. Jessica, long time no see. Mr. Ho cheerfully greeted me. I stopped my bike, responded with friendliness, and chatted for a few sentences. I just met Catherine Stevens. She was bringing food to her child at the hospital. Oh, bringing food. His voice seemed full of hidden meaning. He told me that Catherine's family had long felt regret for adopting such a weak and sickly child. When Violet was healthy, she would help Catherine with housework like cleaning and washing. The family also turned a blind eye to it, but since the citywide hepatitis outbreak, Violet was the first in the house to get sick, and the disease was contagious, so she was immediately sent to isolation in the hospital. It's not every day 2 meals, sometimes when she's lazy, she only brings 1 meal. The colleague shook his head. I didn't know how to feel emotionally, so I used the excuse of needing to go home to care for my child to ask for permission to leave. Not long after I was promoted again, my husband Marcus Quinn suggested quitting his job to go into business. My mother-in-law worried, Marcus, don't just look at other people making money. You have a wife and child at home. What if you fail? I understood her concerns. She had single-handedly raised her son, which wasn't easy, and didn't want her child to take risks. Besides, she probably had some worries in her heart. I had just been promoted. If Marcus failed, would this family still remain intact? I took her hand and gently reassured her. Mom, everything has 2 sides. Let's not just think about bad results. This time I support Marcus going out to start his own business. After saying this, I went inside to get the savings book and gave it to my husband. Being a man, you need to have the courage to venture out. Don't be afraid, you have me by your side. Marcus Quinn looked at me with reddened eyes. Ani, thank you for supporting me. I smiled. Husband and wife are one. Don't be so formal. I asked him, do you have any direction in mind? He answered, a friend I used to work with has a project with great potential. I thought for a moment, remembering what had happened in Shanghai in 1988. The image of Yang Zhaokai, who became famous nationwide, appeared clearly in my mind. I couldn't say I was reborn, so I quietly took the Liberation Daily newspaper and pointed to the news. The central bank just announced permission for free trading of government bonds. I suggested, how about we try going to the Shanghai Stock Exchange to buy government bonds? Marcus and my mother-in-law were a bit hesitant because they had never been exposed to this form of investment. But seeing my determination, they finally agreed to use half of the family's savings to invest in government bonds. The next day, those bonds were successfully sold, making a profit of several hundred yuan. Several hundred yuan at that time was equivalent to several months' salary for an ordinary worker. The whole family was excited and went to a restaurant to celebrate with a grand feast. Not long after, I made another suggestion. Due to information gaps between regions, government bond prices in Shanghai were often much higher than in inland cities, especially in Anhui and Hefei. For example, a government bond with a face value of 100 yuan might only sell for 94 yuan in Anhui, but could be sold for up to 112 yuan in Shanghai. After confirming this was true, Marcus almost every week traveled between Shanghai and Anhui. He bought cheap government bonds in Anhui and brought them back to Shanghai to sell at high prices. Through this simple but effective method, our family quickly accumulated initial capital and earned our first pot of gold. When profits from government bonds began to decline, we switched to investing in stocks. By the time my daughter entered elementary school, my family had moved from the old collective apartment to a small Western-style house. On weekends, I took my child to eat at KFC. While carrying the food tray, I suddenly realized the polite waitress placing the tray on the counter looked very familiar. The girl with the high ponytail kept glancing at me while serving food. When we were about to leave, the girl approached cautiously and asked, "Excuse me, are you Ms. Jessica Mitchell?" I was quite surprised. "I'm Grace Thompson, Violet's older sister." The girl confidently introduced herself. I suddenly remembered this girl was truly excellent and had been admitted to a university in Shanghai. After confirming the information, I had once sent her the first tuition fee. "Ms. Mitchell, thank you for silently helping me all these years." Right in the middle of the restaurant, she politely bowed to thank me very sincerely. People around began to murmur and applaud. "She's so kind-hearted, and the girl is also excellent. Getting into a Shanghai university is really not easy." I blushed slightly, just smiled gently and said, "I didn't do much, just saw the child was hardworking and had ambition, so I lent a hand." Unexpectedly, as soon as I finished speaking, people applauded even more enthusiastically. My daughter raised her small face, excited to the point where both cheeks turned red. "I also want to be like sister, go to university and eat KFC." For the child, KFC was the dream of university. The whole restaurant laughed at this innocence. My daughter became even more proud, raising her head higher, as if energized by all the praise. I smiled and said to my child, "Sweetheart, this sister is the one who personally sewed that cute tiger hat for you." Hearing this, the child opened her bright eyes wide, looking at Grace, then politely thanked her. I hope my child will be a grateful child. Therefore, when I received Grace's tiger hat, I kept it. When my child grows up, I will tell her that there was once someone who silently blessed her with all her heart. I left my home address for Grace and then left the restaurant with my child. Another weekend, Grace came to my house carrying a bag of fruit. "Sweetheart, go pour Sister Grace a glass of water," I instructed my daughter. In my previous life, apart from studying, Violet never touched any work, having everything taken care of for her. This made me understand even more that besides studying well, teaching children to be good people was equally important. I let my child do all the work within her capability herself. Grace was an enthusiastic and open child, so she quickly adapted to the new living environment. "Ms. Mitchell, thanks to your help, I was able to change my fate. Now I also want to use my own hands to help others. Every weekend I spend half a day at the orphanage as a volunteer. Sister Grace is amazing. Mom always tells me to learn from sister." A small head poked out sideways. Her curly hair, just like her father's, couldn't be combed straight no matter how hard we tried. I smiled and gently smoothed my child's hair. "Really? Then sister is also proud because sister always learns from your mom. Your mom is a wonderful person." What does wonderful mean? It means someone who can persist in doing something without changing their original intention. What's the original intention? I think Ms. Mitchell has a kind heart, wanting to help others, wanting to make life better. Oh, then I also want to become a wonderful person." The child tilted her head and nodded decisively. The scene was so cute it made the whole family burst into laughter. The atmosphere was very joyful. I don't know why someone mentioned Violet. A few years ago, Catherine Stevens' family conditions were quite good. At that time, Violet didn't want others to know she was adopted, and was afraid her older sister Grace would bother her and ask for money, so even when she received letters from her sister, she never replied. This year, learning that her sister was admitted to university, Violet's attitude suddenly became enthusiastic, writing almost weekly letters, telling how hard her life was and how much she missed her sister. If she were still an orphan living in the orphanage, Violet would probably still be that quietly invisible younger sister. Even so, Grace only gently wrote encouraging letters. She encouraged her sister to study hard, live well, and be grateful to the family that adopted her. Unexpectedly, these reminders received no response. Instead, Violet only complained about not getting new dresses, using a school bag for 2 years, and having to do housework after school. Such letters made Grace extremely disappointed. You should know that Catherine Stevens originally intended to adopt the older sister who was well-behaved, mature, and more understanding. But in the end, over the past 6 or 7 years, she chose to raise Violet. This was a great sacrifice that Grace always appreciated and felt needed to be repaid. Yet her younger sister was like a piece of wood, never knowing to cherish what she had, only focusing on what was insufficient. I sighed in silence. In my previous life I had used my entire family, marriage, biological child, and 20 years of youth to realize a truth: for those who are heartless, cold, and indifferent, one doesn't need to invest too much emotion. Unexpectedly, Violet came looking for me. The girl standing at the gate was thinner than in my previous life, her complexion worse. I calmly asked, "Little girl, who are you looking for?" She was as delighted as if she had struck gold, exactly like in my previous life, grabbing my hand and acting coquettishly. "Mom, it's me, Violet. I'm back," I replied coldly. "You've mistaken me for someone else." "I haven't made a mistake. Mom, I remember everything." She began to get agitated, even questioning me. Didn't mom also come back to life from the time of adopting me? Otherwise, why would mom change and not adopt me anymore? Truly someone who had lived together for over 20 years. She knew my thoughts and actions like the back of her hand. I looked straight into her eyes. So according to you, why should I adopt you? Her eyes showed a flash of panic. Mom, we had over 20 years as mother and daughter. Are you willing to abandon me? I didn't abandon you. Didn't you get adopted well by Catherine Stevens' mother? She was immediately speechless. It's different. What's different? Or should I again struggle to treat your illnesses like in my previous life, or again spend all my money and energy on your education, sending you abroad so you could come back as a chief doctor? Violet. Mom, I still have talent for studying. Please adopt me like before. I will repay you later. I knew that currently Violet's life in Catherine's house wasn't very comfortable. Her temperament was spoiled and weak, crying and making scenes at the slightest thing. I heard there had been many arguments to the point of threatening to cut off relationships. Unexpectedly, this time she gambled on finding me. I was so angry I laughed. Repay? Repay how? Like during the earthquake, taking the last blood bag to save someone else, and letting me die from blood loss. Hearing this, Violet's face turned pale as paper. In just a moment, she began to defend herself again. The situation was special then. Didn't mom know that Catherine's mother was also bleeding elsewhere? I just smiled slightly, not wanting to continue arguing. You should go. Consider that we never knew each other. I saw her off. Then if mom doesn't want to adopt me, can you help me with tuition money? Truly shameless to the extreme. You and I have no relationship anymore, I said firmly. Then why does mom help sister? Since mom has money, why can't you help me too? I said gently. Only those who know gratitude deserve help. Right then, my daughter came bouncing home from school with her backpack. Mom, I'm home from school. Seeing a stranger in the house, the child politely greeted, "Hello, sister." Unexpectedly, this scene was like fuel added to Violet's emotions. So it's because mom has a biological daughter that you don't want to raise me anymore, isn't it? Seeing her starting to lose control, I quickly brought my child inside and gestured for her to leave. Unexpectedly, the next day Grace rushed to my house. "Ms. Mitchell, did you meet Violet?" The girl asked worriedly. I nodded. I don't know why she insists on saying that in a previous life you adopted her. I maintained a calm attitude, waiting for the girl to continue. Last night she asked me to meet her. She was very angry, emotionally out of control, repeatedly asking why you gave birth to a daughter. Grace bit her lip, seeming to have difficulty continuing. "Ms. Mitchell, I feel Violet harbors hatred toward your child. You should be careful for your daughter's safety." I thanked the girl and patted her shoulder gently. Time passes quickly. So you've been studying at Shanghai University for 3 years and are about to graduate. You should focus on your studies. Violet is 18 years old, mature enough to think for herself. You don't need to protect your sister excessively. It's time for her to learn to be understanding and take responsibility for her actions. Grace nodded seriously. Yesterday, Violet's eyes when she left made my spine run cold, both venomous and fierce. Therefore, that night Marcus and I quietly prepared. In this life, we originally had no connection to each other. For an orphan to grow up to today wasn't easy either. I once didn't want to take revenge on her. But Marcus had been doing quite well in business these years, and the local police also respected him. Hearing that my daughter might be in danger, the next morning he had people in disguise keep watch outside the child's school gate. I wasn't a blindly kind person. I was waiting for Violet to make a bigger mistake so she would pay the appropriate price. Sure enough, no one expected Violet to use Grace's name to trick my daughter into leaving school. The disguised police had received instructions. If Violet hadn't harmed the child yet, temporarily take no action. I was gambling that she would reveal her true nature. Hearing that Sister Grace was injured, my daughter was so worried she was sweating, crying while urging Violet to pedal faster, faster. Violet led the child to a deserted place, then gagged her with tape and pushed her to a strange man. Right then, police rushed in to subdue them. My daughter was so frightened her face turned completely pale. I came to pick up the child at the police station. As soon as she saw me, she hugged me tightly and cried heartbrokenly. I couldn't hold back my tears either. This price was completely worth it. If I had warned her beforehand, the child would certainly have shown vulnerability, and I wouldn't have obtained evidence of Violet's crime. Under Violet's cooperation, police quickly traced the strange man and uncovered an entire human trafficking ring, rescuing several children who hadn't been transferred yet. When I told my child that thanks to her courage, the police uncles were able to save other children, the child's frightened face immediately brightened. Her cheeks flushed rosy, and she was as proud as a tiny hero. The next time I met Violet and Grace was in court. As soon as Grace saw me, she blushed with shame and kept apologizing. Ms. Mitchell, I'm sorry to your daughter too. I just smiled tolerantly. Grace, this isn't your fault. Seeing me and Grace appear in court together, Violet was so angry her face turned ashen. You're not my sister. I don't have a sister who would send her own sister to prison. Then she turned and shouted at me, you're not my mother either. Since you have a biological child, you don't need to raise me anymore. I still calmly looked at her. So that's the reason you planned to kidnap my daughter? Yes. She shouldn't exist in this world, I said coldly. No one is born to sacrifice for others. Violet clenched her fists, her expression ugly. I'm only 18 now and the child wasn't actually taken away. Why won't you forgive me? Forgive you? I laughed coldly. So you can have another chance to kidnap her. My voice became icy. My daughter is my bottom line. No one is allowed to touch her. In the end, Violet was sentenced to prison for child trafficking. I quietly and calmly listened to the judge pronounce the sentence. In my previous life, she was the one who indirectly caused my death. In this life, she wanted to kidnap my daughter again. My daughter Emma was Marcus's life. Normally he was gentle and tolerant, but when it came to our child, he absolutely showed no mercy. I had tacitly allowed Marcus to take revenge. Some things need time to pay the price. Revenge is the same. 2 years later, in the women's prison, Violet got into a conflict with fellow inmates. During the scuffle, she was pushed and fell, hitting her head on the ground. When she woke up, her intelligence had regressed to that of a 6-year-old child. As for Grace, after graduating from university, with the help of my husband and me, she started her business with great enthusiasm. Currently, she's running a small software company in Shanghai with a very promising future. Over the years, in the name of a flood disaster orphan, she has silently helped many other well-behaved and studious children. Good and brave people must receive appropriate rewards. Here is the second story. From an abandoned child left to die in the wilderness to the province's top scholar. Grace Taylor lived 2 lifetimes to learn that fake love is more poisonous than indifference. When the Taylor family thought they could exploit her to pay off their millions in debt, they never imagined this Grace was no longer the obedient girl from before. This is a story of the most exquisite revenge, not killing your enemies, but letting them destroy each other in the hell they created themselves. Please listen to the story. My name is Grace Taylor, Grace like the morning algae. My younger sister's name is Vivian Taylor, Vivian meaning perfect and complete. In my previous life, I always yearned for my mother's love, my father's attention. They forced me to quit school and work to earn money so Vivian could continue her education. I obeyed. When Vivian borrowed money from loan sharks, they made me take responsibility for her debt. I accepted it too. Even later, when she wanted to steal my wealthy boyfriend, I silently stepped aside. Yet my mother said, Grace clearly resents me, but she always pretends to please me. How disgusting. Even when I was killed by Vivian's car, they still stood before my grave saying, you're the older sister, you should be generous. I looked up and laughed maniacally. Is this what you call parents? Living again in this life, I no longer need what you call family affection. Grandmother favored boys over girls. From the moment I was born, my mother never had a peaceful day. I was like a nightmare weighing on her head. No matter how she struggled, she couldn't escape. When I turned 1 year old, she finally made up her mind to abandon me in the deep mountains and forests. I didn't die of hunger, cold, or being eaten by wild animals. Instead, I met kind people who brought me back. My mother's actions were exposed, and the whole village laughed at her and spat in her face. The following spring, my mother and father left for the city to work. From then on, they never came back to visit me even once. I saw her again after 10 years, when grandmother died and the whole family came back for the funeral. That was the first time I met my sister Vivian. She wore a princess dress with butterfly bows, knew how to sing and dance, and reportedly could even play piano. When meeting villagers, she would sweetly greet everyone. Hello uncle, hello auntie, hello grandpa and grandma. Everyone liked her immediately. Her radiance overshadowed all the boys in the village. My mother finally had something to be proud of, bragging to everyone she met about, my Vivian this, my Vivian that. The mother and daughter looked exactly like real city people, and all the adults and children in the village praised them endlessly. Mother led Vivian around the village showing off, while I spent the whole day diving underwater collecting snails. In the evening, I made spicy stir-fried snails to serve the 3 of them. But as soon as I brought it out, Vivian wrinkled her nose, complaining it was dirty and smelly, refusing to eat even one. She even lectured me, this is wild food, full of bacteria, don't you know? Her tone carried arrogance and contempt. My mother also pursed her lips in disgust. How dare you serve us this? What if Vivian gets sick? I didn't respond. I had spent all day collecting just one bucket of snails, and one bucket was only enough for one small bowl. They complained but I didn't, so I ate it all. Vivian's eyes widened and she suddenly burst into tears. She said I had eaten all the meat and left nothing for her. I patted my stomach and went straight to bed. How can this child be so vicious? That was the first comment my mother made about me after seeing me again after 10 years. In my previous life, to please her, I obeyed everything and endured everything. She made me quit school to work and support my sister's education. I obeyed. My sister borrowed millions to chase after idols. She made me pay it back. I obeyed too. After my sister graduated and couldn't find work, she made me hand over the company I had built to her. I obeyed. Even later, she told me to give up my wealthy boyfriend to my sister. I still obeyed. As a result, she said, Grace clearly resents me, yet she always pretends to please me. It makes people sick. She always tried to slander me in front of others, saying I was unreasonable, rebellious, and unfilial. When I lay in a pool of blood waiting to die, there was only one question in my mind. Why? Why couldn't mother love me even just a little? Living again, I no longer need her love. I just want to live for myself. As expected, the next day the whole village knew that I had eaten all the only portion of meat in the house, not leaving a single piece for Vivian. Vivian cried and sobbed. I don't necessarily have to eat it, but she ate the portion for 4 people all by herself. That's too much. My mother stroked her head to comfort her. Your sister was raised by grandmother. What does she know about manners or proper upbringing? Vivian, don't learn from your sister. But this time, no one praised them anymore, and no one called Vivian cute or my mother capable. Where did the Taylor family get meat? Could it be the snail meat that Grace collected all day yesterday? Last night when I passed by their house, I clearly heard Vivian complaining about bacteria in the snails and refusing to eat them. They came back from the city dressed so flashily, but couldn't bring Grace a single piece of food or clothing, yet they had the nerve to make the child cook meat to serve them. Diana Thompson is truly cruel-hearted as a mother. The gossip behind their backs cut like knives, and my mother heard plenty of it. From then on, she didn't dare go out to show off her city person status anymore. As for me, I continued going to the fields every day to cut grass for the pig. That pig finally got to eat its fill for several meals. I asked the village chief to help me sell it. That was my tuition and living expenses for the upcoming school year. The village chief looked at the still small pig and advised me to raise it for another 2 months. I said after grandmother's burial tomorrow, they would return to the city and would sell my pig to take the money, then throw me a few coins as charity. They'd make me feel grateful and moved, so I'd rather sell it myself. Money only truly belongs to you when it's in your own pocket. That night, Father discovered the pig was missing from the pen and came to question me. Where's the pig? I sold it. Where's the money? That's my tuition for the whole year. Do you want to take it? Father opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word. For all these years, you parents haven't given me a single penny. I've raised pigs and chickens myself to pay for school. If you really want it, I can give it to you. A rare look of shame appeared on Father's face, his mouth twitching with embarrassment. It's not that Father wants to take your money, I'm just worried you're too young to keep money safe. I nodded without saying anything more. He fumbled in his pocket for a long time and finally pulled out a crumpled bill, handing it to me. This is cigarette money Father has been hiding from Mother. I took it, and a slight smile of relief appeared on his face. You are listening to a story on Strawberry Audio. The next day was grandmother's burial. My mother was anxious to pack up and eager to return to the city. I crawled into the chicken coop and caught the remaining 5 chickens. Father stood outside awkwardly watching, hesitantly saying, Well, your mother told Father. His eyes stopped on the chickens in my hands. In my previous life, Mother took all the chickens and eggs for Vivian's nourishment, leaving me with only a thin soup. She diluted it with water before giving it to me to drink. As a result, Vivian turned around and criticized me like a beggar. In this life, I generously gave them 1 chicken. The hospitality these past days wasn't adequate. Consider this chicken as a takeaway gift. Father fumbled in his pockets again, this time finding nothing. He took the chicken and made conversation. You should go back early. Your parents have to catch the last bus back to the city. I nodded, carrying 4 chickens and a basket of eggs to the village chief's house. When I returned, Mother had already taken Vivian and left. She didn't want to stay in this place for another second. When Father and I boarded the last bus to the city, Mother immediately asked, Where's the money from selling the pig and chickens? She asked Father, but her sharp eagle-like eyes swept straight toward me. I took out 300 yuan and handed it to her. I know you don't want to support me. Taking me back this time is just unavoidable. This 300 is for rent and utilities this month. I'll handle my own school expenses. Mother's face twisted indescribably, but she still took the money. I continued, to avoid people saying later that I lived for free without paying. Please help me write a receipt. That clearly angered Mother, who glared at me as if she wanted to tear me apart. Just then, a neighbor passed by and saw me standing at the door, curiously asking, "Whose child is this?" In my previous life, Vivian wouldn't let me tell anyone I was her sister. Mother wouldn't let me call her mother in public, and father acted like he didn't have this daughter. I had tried to please them all, only to receive contempt and disdain in return. In this life, I won't stick my face out to claim kinship anymore, I replied calmly. My name is Grace Taylor. I'm an orphan. Grandmother passed away. Now I'm staying with Uncle Robert and Aunt Diana. The neighbor looked at me with eyes full of sympathy. Seeing me wearing adult clothes covered in patches, she brought a bag of her daughter's clothes for me. All three family members showed obvious displeasure. As soon as we entered the house, they began arguing about where I would sleep. The house only had 2 bedrooms, with the living room and kitchen sharing one space. Father suggested I share a room with Vivian, but Mother immediately rejected it. Vivian likes cleanliness. She can't sleep with that country girl. Let her sleep on the sofa. She even mocked. This sofa is better than that rickety bed in the countryside. She should be grateful. Vivian objected again. No way, I still need to sit on the sofa. She's dirty. I'm afraid of getting infected. I quietly carried my cloth bag to the balcony. In my previous life, I had lived under the clothesline out there until I finished high school. I'll sleep here. Mother looked at me with disgust. Vivian snorted and casually pulled the glass door between the balcony and living room shut. Father seemed regretful, and the next day he used some boards to make me a small wooden bed. That fulfilled his fatherly duty. Vivian attended a private elementary school with tuition of 18,000 yuan per year. My parents naturally wouldn't let me attend such schools. In fact, Mother didn't even bother to care whether I could go to school at all. I knew this was the price for daring to disobey her. I'm exhausted every day. Where do I have time to worry about school for her? If she's so capable, let her find a school herself. Those were Mother's exact words to Father. Her eyes swept toward me with the usual provocation. I smiled and replied, "No need. The community aunties and uncles have already helped me register. As long as you're an orphan, all procedures are very convenient. In my previous life, having parents actually hindered me in every way. Now, the community has even helped me apply for a hardship subsidy of 500 yuan per month. Of course, I wouldn't be foolish enough to tell them about this money, but unfortunately it was still noticed. When I was about to enter middle school, Mother suddenly discovered that 1,000 yuan was missing from the money she had hidden at home. Vivian immediately accused me of stealing and conveniently found 1,000 yuan in my school bag. Slap. Mother hit me straight across the face. I knew you were no good. All the resentment she had accumulated finally found an outlet. When Father came home from work, she added fuel to the fire by retelling the story. Slap. Father also hit me like thunder. Since you stepped into this house, we haven't had a peaceful day. Now you've learned to steal too. He hit so hard that I hit my head on the coffee table, and blood immediately gushed out. All three stood frozen, not daring to come near. I quietly got up and walked out of the house. On the way, a neighbor saw my face covered in blood, her eyes immediately blazing with anger. "Auntie, please help me call the police. Their family lost money." As soon as she heard about calling the police, Vivian immediately panicked. She tugged gently at Mother's clothes. "Mother, it's only 1,000 yuan. Do we have to call the police? If sister really goes to jail, wouldn't that be pitiful?" But Mother wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity. The police came quickly. "Officers, it's her. So young but so badly behaved. Please take her for education," she said while grinning with malicious pleasure. But unfortunately, this time she was disappointed. The 1,000 yuan was a legitimate subsidy with community certification. On the contrary, Vivian was found to have spent over 1,000 yuan on her phone buying albums for her idol, her so-called brother. In the fan group, friends praised and encouraged her endlessly, all of which could serve as evidence. "So do we need to take Vivian for education?" the police asked. Mother immediately shielded her daughter behind her, angrily shouting, "My daughter taking my money? How is that stealing? Officers, mind your own business." The neighbors were all amazed. When they suspected Grace, she insisted on calling the police. Now with Vivian, she immediately protected her. What kind of discrimination between sisters is this? I thought Grace was their biological daughter. Turns out she's not. Sister, what are you thinking? What biological mother would harm her daughter like this? Amid the neighbors' whispered discussions, Mother slammed the door shut with a bang. My wound required more than 10 stitches. To save money, I only dared go to a small private clinic outside the community. The crooked stitches looked like an ugly centipede crawling on my forehead. Grace, about that. Father scratched his head regretfully. Several times he wanted to speak, then fumbled in his pocket and pulled out his day's wages. Seeing me take it, he sighed with relief. But when I turned around, Mother's eyes swept over like knife blades. I handed all the money I had just received to her. Father's mouth twitched, but he said nothing in the end. If he really wanted to give it to me, he wouldn't have handed over money in front of Mother. In front of her, he just wanted to reduce his guilt a little. I really didn't care about this kind of fatherly love. After that incident, Mother hated me more openly each day. Before, though fake, she would still leave me a bowl of rice. Now she didn't. She even raised a dog and gave all the leftover food to it instead of me. The doghouse was placed right opposite where I slept, less than 1 meter away. Every night I slept with the smell of its feces and urine, but I didn't mind. From middle school on, I stayed at my uncle's house, only coming home during holidays. During long vacations, I would work part-time at nearby stores, hardly staying home much. When the high school entrance exam results were announced, Mother was overjoyed. For the first time, she let me sit at the same table for dinner. Congratulations to Vivian for getting into first middle school, the second best school in the city. She glanced at me, her face glowing with pride. Vivian was like a proud little peacock, smugly asking, "Sister Grace, which school did you get into? Don't tell me you failed to get into any high school." That day Father was also very happy. Hearing that I didn't get into any school, he showed indifference. Not everyone can be as excellent as Vivian. Just right, Grace, you're grown up now and can work to earn money. Later when your sister goes to college and gets a high-paying job, she'll definitely repay you. Mother tried to suppress her laughter. I simply replied, I got in too. Which school? Don't tell me it's 5th middle school. That garbage school is like not going to school at all. 7th middle school, the top high school in the city. The atmosphere in the Taylor house froze instantly. After that, Mother immediately hired a tutor for Vivian. If even someone like her can get into 7th middle school, how could my daughter be inferior? She couldn't stand the thought of the daughter she had abandoned being more excellent than the biological daughter she had devoted all her efforts to raising. In my previous life, because I scored higher than Vivian, she found various reasons to make me kneel in punishment on the washboard countless times. That's right, I almost forgot that in my previous life, the person who tutored Vivian for free was me. In this life, to hire tutors, she had to work night shifts, which seemed quite exhausting, dragging herself home near midnight. During the 3 years of high school, I watched her hair turn gray strand by strand, but as long as Vivian got a decent grade, she would excitedly go around the apartment complex bragging. She devoted all her heart and soul to Vivian, personally proving to the world how great a mother's love could be. As for me, I no longer bothered to be jealous. Before the college entrance exam, they came to me again. Mother nudged Father several times before he stammered hesitantly, Grace, you can see our family situation. We really can't afford to send 2 children to college at the same time. How ironic that word sounded. I took out the 10 UN bill that Father had secretly given me years ago. This is the only amount you 2 have given me in over 10 years. Father choked up, unable to say more. He angrily stood up and shouted at his wife, I don't care. If you want to say something, go say it yourself. Mother looked at me, her voice softening for the first time, seemingly mixed with some regret. Fine, if you want to study, go ahead. She even cooked me a bowl of noodles with a fried egg on top. Eat and go to bed early, you need strength for the exam tomorrow. I said nothing, carrying the bowl of noodles to the balcony, my usual dining spot. Then I poured the entire bowl into the dog's food bowl. Before Mother could react, the little dog had rushed over, swallowed it in a few bites, then immediately collapsed, convulsing all over. Mother's face turned dark, her hands clenched tightly. That's the second time, I said coldly. She looked up at me, her eyes showing clear fear. I quietly packed my belongings into a cloth bag and shouldered it. I thought I would never return to this house again. Behind me was Vivian's desperate crying. Mother, what did you put in the noodles? Little Black is dying. This had happened in my previous life too. Clearly I had promised not to take the college entrance exam, just wanted to complete the test, yet Mother still wouldn't let me go. That night I vomited violently and had a high fever. She coldly said, Your fate is lowly. Don't dream of things that don't belong to you. This is what you deserve. The college entrance exam results came out. Vivian barely met the cutoff for a key university. The Taylor family threw a grand celebration, bragging everywhere. Their mouths humbly said Vivian barely made the grade and would have difficulty choosing universities, but their hearts were bursting with joy. Anyone who praised her made them happy for 3 days. Too bad they didn't know that in my previous life, under my tutoring, Vivian exceeded the cutoff by 30 points, welcomed by any university. That was the first time I saw Mother smile gently, her eyes full of satisfaction, as if all the sacrifices over the years finally had their reward. Then she turned to me and deliberately asked, "Sister Grace, how many points did you get?" "I don't know. Because my test scores were hidden." Mother burst out laughing. "Oh my, you're really saving face. Even if you did poorly, no one would blame you." Vivian didn't forget to twist the knife. "Getting into 7th middle school means what? The college entrance exam isn't easy." "Sister, you're really too complacent." Father chimed in. "I told you to learn from Vivian, be diligent and honest to become someone." Just then, community workers and education department representatives appeared together. Both the most prestigious schools, Tsinghua and Peking University, sent people. "Grace, congratulations on scoring 7 to 18 points in the college entrance exam. You're the top science student in the entire province." The atmosphere immediately froze. A few seconds later, Vivian screamed. "Why? How did she get 7 or 18 points? It must be cheating. The teachers must investigate thoroughly." Mother also angrily shouted, "She's someone nobody wants. How could she score so high? There must be something shady going on." This scene left the teachers from both prestigious schools stunned. The community worker whispered a few words to them explaining my situation. The teacher's eyes turned sympathetic, no longer bothering to respond to the Taylor family. I was the city's top student and also the province's top student. The two education departments awarded a total of 600,000 yuan. The community also helped me apply for an additional 30,000 yuan college subsidy, totaling 630,000 yuan. This money was enough for the Taylor family to pay off their house loan, and still have enough left for Vivian to live more comfortably. Not only the parents, even Vivian's eyes widened, forgetting all the previous contempt for me. In her mind now was only, with 630,000 yuan, how much delicious food she could eat, how many princess dresses she could buy, how many albums she could buy for her idol brother. She grabbed Mother's hand and shook it. "Mother, sister has 630,000, sister." That word, in both my lifetimes combined, I had heard it less than 5 times. Every time she called me sister, it was because she wanted something from me. Mother had just finished cursing and now didn't dare speak anymore, only secretly pinching herself. Father actually didn't need prompting to lose control. His eyes glued to the prize money, rubbing his hands as he approached. "That money belongs to Grace, not to you people. I'm her biological father. That money naturally belongs to me." "Huh, isn't Grace an orphan? How did parents suddenly appear?" There were quite a few neighbors watching. Over the years, they knew better than the community workers how I lived in the Taylor house. Now everyone spoke up clearly. I had no blood relation with them whatsoever. What biological parents don't give their child a single meal? Who makes their biological daughter sleep on the balcony with a dog house next to it? What parents see their child sick with high fever and don't buy medicine, but kick her out for fear of contagion? Who tries to poison their child before exams because they're afraid she'll do well? Each word cut into the Taylor parents' ears like knives. I just stood still, even feeling like laughing. Father was so embarrassed his face turned red, but the attraction of 30,000 yuan was still strong enough to swallow his dignity. "Grace, tell them." He pushed me forward. I smiled. "Uncle Robert, what do you want me to say?" "Of course, say that you're father's biological daughter." I kept smiling without moving. He got angry, veins bulging, and slapped me across the face, trying to force me to submit with violence. "How hard father worked to raise you. Now that you're successful, you turn around and deny us. Even animals know to repay their parents. How can you be worse than animals?" I spat out blood, my face cold as ice, slowly pulling out a paper from my pocket with large words printed on it. "Orphan certification." "Do I have orphan certification? Are you on their household registration?" "Of course not. From birth I had been a child without household registration. When they bought a house in the city and redid their household registration, only Vivian's name was on it." "You have complete parents. Where did you get orphan certification?" "Minors without anyone to support them all have the right to get such certification. Don't you know this? When I was just 1 year old, Aunt Diana abandoned me in the forest and nearly died. Before age 12 you didn't provide me a single penny or fulfill any parenting duties. After age 12, though I lived here, I paid rent every month." I pulled out a stack of receipts written by Mother herself, thick as a book, spanning years without missing a cent. As for food and clothing, all provided by kind community people. For tuition and books, I worked and earned every penny myself. "Do you need witnesses? I can call out a bunch." The Taylor family's faces turned pale white then purple. "Even so, you can't be considered an orphan. Who gave you that certification?" Father still wouldn't give up. "Didn't you agree to it yourselves?" "What? When I was 8 years old, grandmother pushed me into the fish pond and I nearly drowned. The village chief took me to the hospital, medical bills over 10,000 yuan. To avoid paying, you personally wrote a document abandoning parental rights. I still have the original. It has Aunt Diana's signature and fingerprint. Do you want to verify it? Slap. Father went crazy and slapped mother across the face. It's all your fault. Even if you hated Grace, you couldn't abandon the child like that. Mother bit her teeth hard, covering her face speechlessly. Father turned to me, his face full of regret. Why didn't you tell father when you were sick? Father didn't know anything. Uncle Robert didn't know. I used the village chief's phone to call you. You said you couldn't handle it and told me to find Aunt Diana myself. Father's face immediately stiffened. He had been an irresponsible father for over 10 years, he had probably forgotten about it himself. Oh right, that year was also when Vivian, your biological daughter, started elementary school. To give her better conditions, you registered her for private school, 18,000 yuan tuition per year. You told the village chief you had no money, but enrolled Vivian in private school, plus dance lessons and piano lessons. Uncle Robert, what right do you have to claim me as your daughter? Grace, father. In the end, I didn't take a single cent of that 30,000 yuan. I knew if that money was in my hands, the Taylor family would never let me go. I decisively first repaid the village chief and others who had helped me. The rest I donated entirely. I had only one condition. In my village, I was a child raised by 100 families. I hoped this money would prioritize education in the village, supporting poor students like I once was. The college application results were as expected. Vivian didn't get into a top-tier university and had to choose a second-tier college. As for me, I didn't choose Tsinghua or Peking University either, but attended a different school. At the freshman welcome variety show, I met him Matthew Zhao, a radiant, handsome young man full of energy. In my sophomore year, I was selected for a research project organized jointly by Global Enterprise Group and the school. Matthew Zhao was the prince of that corporation. Many people dreamed of getting close to him. I wasn't particularly outstanding, but through my abilities, I helped the team overcome crucial bottlenecks in the project. In my previous life, it was also because of this that despite only having a high school diploma, I was chosen by him as an assistant. Also because of that diploma, I was once despised, ostracized, and slandered by the entire team. But today everyone had to come toast me with wine. No matter how jealous they were inside, they had to maintain a harmonious appearance. Matthew Zhao officially pursued me. The colder I was, the more passionately he pursued me. When the Taylor family came looking for me, he personally drove his supercar to take me to the agreed tea house. As soon as the Taylor family saw the car, their eyes immediately lit up. Grace, these are free-range eggs your parents brought from the countryside, traveling over 2,000 kilometers. Father gently pushed mother's back, and mother reluctantly forced a smile. What do you two want from me? After more than 2 years apart, their hair had grayed considerably, probably many sleepless nights regretting the loss of 630,000 yuan. Vivian stepped forward, intimately putting her arm around me. Sister, are you still angry with our parents? I apologize for them. It's all my fault. If not for me, they wouldn't have neglected you like that. She cleverly positioned herself between me and Matthew, tilting her head slightly, tears falling right onto his hand. This tea is really strong. Matthew frowned slightly. Maybe we should go upstairs. He arranged the best private room for this repentance meeting. Leaving the tea house, Matthew took my hand and said, Grace, you've suffered. I will definitely treat you well. But just 1 week later, his attitude began to change. Seeing Vivian bring breakfast to school only to be ignored by me, Matthew frowned disapprovingly. Grace, even so, they are your relatives. Isn't it a bit heartless of you to act this way? Half a month later, Vivian stood in heavy rain carrying breakfast, refusing to leave. Finally, Matthew angrily shouted, Grace, you're too cold-hearted. That's your biological sister. How can you treat her like this? He held an umbrella for her like a prince in the rain. Vivian's eyes welled up. Matthew, thank you. I stood still in the rain, watching the two of them like they were filming a romance drama. The corner of my mouth curved up in a cold smile. Me, heartless. I've investigated thoroughly. Vivian owes millions in high-interest loans. The creditors followed her from school to her hometown, and now they've found where I live. Their goal is nothing but to make me pay her debts. But now that there's a new fool, it probably has nothing to do with me anymore, right? Unfortunately, I had underestimated the Taylor family's shamelessness. Even though they had latched onto the money tree named Matthew Zhao, they still wouldn't let me go. My biological mother herself arranged to meet me at a guest house where they were staying. When I arrived, they found excuses to leave one by one. Soon after, a group of men burst in, planning to strip me naked and take photos. I pulled out a fruit knife I had prepared beforehand. Oh, still wanna resist? Come here, let me teach you how to behave. Hey, what are you doing? I definitely couldn't win in a fight, so I stabbed the knife straight into my own palm. Blood dripped steadily onto the table. The loan sharks immediately panicked. If you dare touch me, I'll die right here. For 1 million, do you have the guts to get involved in a death? Would you dare? Illegal lending wasn't regulated, calling police was useless. But if someone died, especially a student from a prestigious university, public opinion would be like a sword, leaving them no escape. Obviously, they understood this better than I did. I saw them start to retreat, so I continued. You won't get money from me, but I have a way to help you get it back. They came aggressively but retreated timidly. I collapsed on the floor, my back soaked in cold sweat. Soon after, Mother returned. Seeing blood everywhere, her face turned pale white. That's the third time, I said coldly. Perhaps because my bloody appearance was too frightening, her legs went weak and she had to grab the door frame to avoid falling. Due to my injury, I took sick leave. The next day, Mother knelt outside my dormitory. Quite a few passersby gathered to watch. I continued doing what I was doing, not bothering to care. Matthew brought gifts to visit me. It started raining again. Seeing her kneeling in the courtyard, he was about to go help her up. Mother knew well how to strike at people's sympathy. If Grace won't forgive me, I won't get up. Her gray hair and pitiful yet stubborn eyes moved many people to start scolding me for being unfilial. Matthew finally couldn't stand it anymore. Ignoring dormitory rules, he burst into my room using student council authority. Grace, don't you see your mother kneeling down there? It's been so long. Why won't you let it go? What more do you want from them? Come down with me and apologize to your mother. He tried to pull me down, his hand gripping exactly on the wound on my hand like a vise. Blood immediately spurted out. What are you doing? My roommates heard the news and rushed back. Seeing my hand covered in blood, Matthew was clearly panicked. Grace, are you hurt? My roommate was about to explain, but I raised my hand to stop her. Let me make it clear to you. I will never, ever forgive them. Matthew gritted his teeth in anger. Now I understand why even your biological parents hate and despise you, even abandoned you like that. Grace, you deserve it. He stormed out, pulling Mother to her feet. Auntie, let's go. Don't waste time on this ungrateful creature anymore. I stood quietly behind the window, watching the scene below, watching their figures disappear in the rain. The corner of my mouth slowly curved up in an cold smile. Very soon after, the story of Matthew Zhao and Vivian renting a room together, and being photographed by creditors, spread everywhere. To cover it up, Matthew had to pay 2 million. When I heard this news, I had just returned from Global Enterprise Group headquarters. Unfortunately, Matthew had also just arrived. Walking ahead, Vivian chased after him. Matthew, I know I was wrong. I won't chase idols anymore. I didn't know they would burst in and threaten you. Ha, didn't know. Wasn't she the one who planned it all? She could force Matthew to pay the debt and also legitimately bind herself to him, using this excuse to step into high society. Matthew looked disgusted and pushed her hand away. Just as he looked up and saw me, he immediately rushed over and grabbed my hand tightly. Grace, I'm sorry. So those people were looking for you to make you pay Vivian's debts. The wound on your hand was caused by the loan sharks, wasn't it? Yet I defended the Taylor family. I'm really worthless. Can you forgive me? I quietly pulled my hand from his. I heard everything about you too. Matthew's expression immediately changed. Grace, I'm also a victim. I was deceived by Vivian's weak and harmless appearance, confused by your parents' pitiful act. The more he spoke, the more ridiculous it became, the more nauseating it sounded. Vivian stood behind him, tears streaming down, finally saying softly, Matthew, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. She turned and ran away, followed by the sharp sound of brakes and screaming. Someone's been hit by a car. Matthew jerked around. Vivian. He rushed over like an arrow, holding Vivian, who was lying on the ground. Vivian weakly leaned into his arms, tears flowing. Matthew, I'm sorry. I just love you. Vivian, don't talk. I'll take you to the hospital. Matthew was frantic, completely panicked. I returned to the dormitory and carefully organized the materials I had brought back from Global Enterprise Group. In my previous life, I had also seen Matthew in this panicked state. When I was hit and killed by a car, bleeding profusely, he had slapped Vivian across the face and carried me to the hospital. But what happened after that? My biological parents said I was jealous of Vivian marrying into wealth and deliberately threw myself in front of her car. The Zhao family paid to cover it up, erasing all evidence. Later, Matthew stood before my grave saying, Grace, I'm sorry. I can't let Vivian go to prison. I heard young Master Zhao officially announced his relationship with Vivian. So fast. They've known each other for just a few days and they're already a couple. I guess that's the difference between love and no love. In the laboratory, everyone was gossiping about Matthew and Vivian's relationship. Only I remained focused on the equipment, continuing my experiment. They had been jealous of me for a long time. How could they pass up an opportunity to mock me? Grace, I heard you were the top science student who rejected Tsinghua and Peking University to choose this school for someone you liked. Wasn't that person young Master Zhao? Anyone can see that. You didn't join this lab because of scientific passion. Someone even rolled up paper and brought it to my mouth like a microphone. Excuse me, Miss Taylor, how does it feel to have your boyfriend stolen by your biological sister? They laughed mockingly. Outside you act all noble, but in the lab you're just a pitiful loser in love. What are you all making noise about? Matthew suddenly appeared, naturally with Vivian always timidly behind him. He drove everyone out. Grace, I'm sorry for failing you. Matthew looked full of regret. In this entire lab, only you are truly serious about the project. I know you love me. Can you help me one more time? Help me complete this project, otherwise, Vivian will be expelled due to disciplinary action. I looked at him. I was really curious. Where did he get the nerve to say these words? Really? Great. Grace, I knew you wouldn't disappoint me. He stepped forward to take my hand again. I pulled away as before. You misunderstood. I meant I'm withdrawing from this project and giving it to her. The joy on Matthew's face instantly faded. Vivian felt insulted. Grace, you think without you the project can't be completed. Who are you looking down on? I'm in the same major as you. If you can do it, so can I. Just wait and see. Are you sure? Matthew was skeptical, because this project was very important, directly related to his future at Global Enterprise Group. The Zhao Corporation was controlled by Matthew's uncle, Stephen Zhao. He believed in not marrying and had 3 nephews. Each was given a project. Whoever succeeded best would receive 10% shares of Global Enterprise Group. Actually, if they had come a few days later, I might have already finished helping him. But unfortunately, Vivian used her so-called professional skills to destroy all the research results I had painstakingly built. In less than half a month, the project faced bankruptcy. While I had already prepared my study abroad application, this opportunity I had exchanged from Stephen Zhao himself, the head of Global Enterprise Group, with experimental data I had collected. Once Global Enterprise Group took over the project, it meant Matthew completely lost his qualification to compete for the 10% shares. Matthew's mother personally came to me. I heard from Matthew that all the project progress before was thanks to you. You loved him so much you were willing to give up Tsinghua and Peking University, choosing a second-tier school to be near him. I promise, if you come back to help Matthew complete the project, I'll force him to break up with Vivian. I still remembered clearly in my previous life, she despised me for my humble background and low education, throwing 100,000 yuan in my face to drive me away. Later, thinking 100,000 wasn't enough, she took back 50,000. When I was hit by Vivian's car, I was still alive but pregnant. She personally removed my breathing tube in the hospital, gently saying, "This is for your own good. You love Matthew so much, seeing him hand in hand with someone else, living would be more painful than dying. After you die, don't haunt us. This is also your parents' wish. If you wake up, their precious Vivian will have to go to prison." Faced with Mrs. Zhao's gentle exterior hiding vicious interior, I coldly replied, "First, I want to see the results you promised." Fine, I have to admit, Mrs. Zhao was very decisive. Just as she was clean and efficient when removing my breathing tube, she was equally ruthless in dealing with Vivian. Just before I left to study abroad, my biological mother Diana Thompson invited me for tea again, the 2 of us in a private room. For the first time, she poured me a cup of tea, pushed it in front of me, and smiled like a flower. Our Vivian is about to marry into the Zhou family. Oh, you know the Zhao family, right? That's Matthew's family, the one you gave up Tsinghua and Peking University for to follow to this school. I heard he's the prince of Global Enterprise Group. She smiled with complete satisfaction. So some things you have to learn to accept fate. Not everything can be obtained through intelligence and talent. Some things simply don't belong to you. I smiled faintly. Then congratulations, Aunt Diana. I finished the tea, stood up to leave, but then turned back, overjoyed to the point of sadness. Aunt Diana, have you ever thought this might be when karma starts catching up? Her face immediately twisted, and she threw a teacup straight at me. I lightly dodged and calmly left. While waiting for the car downstairs, I saw her frantically running out. "Vivian, don't cry, mother's coming right away." I slightly curved the corner of my mouth. "See, retribution has arrived." She stopped abruptly, turned to look at me, her lips trembling, wanting to say something, but now she had no energy to argue with me. She hurriedly hailed a cab to find her precious daughter. Mrs. Zhao was hit by a car. The perpetrator was Vivian. One leg was crushed, internal bleeding, life-threatening. How hard Vivian hit when she crashed the car was how miserably she cried now. I didn't do it on purpose. Auntie ran into the road herself and hit my car. Auntie deliberately wanted to separate me from Matthew, so she did this to frame me. Matthew looked at her with eyes full of despair. I had heard these words in my previous life, only then the person hit was me. She casually lied, and there was always someone who believed her, willing to help cover it up, but the Joe family wasn't me. Vivian was arrested. Whether it was intentional murder or traffic accident, the Joe family was determined to investigate thoroughly. Passing by a bakery, I bought myself a small cake. When I was little, whenever Vivian achieved something, our parents would buy cake to congratulate her. This time I congratulated myself, not for revenge, but because I had finally lived a life worth living. Vivian was eventually released because the Joe family gave up pursuing responsibility. Not only that, the two families were even preparing for an engagement. On the engagement day, I came to the joyful Taylor house. Finally, they had escaped the mud and risen to become superior people. My mother's gray hair now looked proudly shiny, strand by strand. You see, it's truly Vivian's good fortune, turning disaster into blessing, meeting fortune in misfortune. She smiled gently and satisfactorily because her daughter had finally made her hold her head high. Father wore a suit for the first time, looking no different from a beggar in fancy clothes. Grace, even without your 630,000, the Taylor family still lives well. As a father, perhaps he only remembered that money his whole life. I smiled. The Zhao family told outsiders they were being magnanimous because Mrs. Zhao was no longer in critical condition, but the truth was Vivian was pregnant. And more importantly, the Taylor family held the compromising video recorded by the creditors. Seeing me arrive, Matthew rushed over. Disheveled beard, hollow eyes, no longer the radiant young man he once was. Matthew, aren't you happy? He tried to take my hand, and I stepped back twice. He lowered his eyes, dropped his hand, his voice hoarse. Grace, I regret it. I regret not listening to you that day. I just wish the person getting engaged today was you. His eyes were gentle and earnest. I just smiled without answering. Vivian stepped forward, linking arms with him like declaring ownership. Matthew's gentle gaze immediately turned to disgust, but he didn't dare push her away in front of the crowd. Congratulations to you both on your destined union. I spoke sincerely because from the moment I gave up Tsinghua and Peking University to come here, I had been looking forward to this moment. Killing them was too simple, not enough to soothe the hatred in my heart. I wanted them to imprison each other, torture each other, and fall into hell together. I also went to the hospital to visit Mrs. Zhao. She had her leg amputated and would spend her life in a wheelchair. Mrs. Zhao, I'm going abroad to study soon. I wish you good health. Just that one sentence made her eyes red with rage, as if she wanted to burn down the entire room. That wicked person, I will never forgive her. Grace, just wait. I will definitely make her give way to you. I didn't respond. The day I left the country, no one saw me off. I turned to look back at this land that had given me both hope and despair, not knowing when I would return. Just as I was about to turn and leave, a familiar figure appeared. It was Stephen Zhao. I politely nodded to him, and he nodded back. Our relationship was so distant it barely existed, but just as I stepped onto the plane, he suddenly asked, "Are you going to let them off so easily?" The road to hell often begins with a door called the poor suddenly becoming rich. Dealing with the Taylor family is easy, but dealing with the Zhao family isn't simple. Without the Taylor family's entanglement, how could they taste hell so soon? It seems I'll have to cut ties with my brother's family from now on. I immediately felt a chill down my spine. Did he know my intentions? I stole a glance and saw him calmly reading a book. The CEO of Global Enterprise Group sat in economy class right next to me. The day I graduated from university abroad, he attended my graduation ceremony. He was also the one who brought me this news. Your father gambled and owes 200 million. The Zhao family sold everything they had and still couldn't pay it back. Matthew proposed divorce to Vivian. Vivian angrily blew up the Zhao family villa. I gasped, taking a long time to speak. Are there any survivors? Your mother Diana Thompson took her granddaughter Emma Zhao to the park. He paused as if reluctantly adding, Matthew is missing. I nodded indifferently. Thank you for letting me know. Don't you want to say anything? I tilted my head and smiled at him. I'm a petty person who can only hold those I love and those who love me. I returned to the country 8 years later. I established a foundation to help poor orphaned children. Every year I donated millions, sometimes over 10 million. When I went to inspect the foundation's activities, I saw a familiar hunched old woman blocking the entrance. Please, my Emma hasn't eaten meat in so long. Isn't your place a charity for poor orphans? Why won't you help my pitiful granddaughter? You should give her money. She wants hamburgers, French fries, roasted chicken. She wants to learn piano and dance. She will become someone important. If you help her now, there's still time. The staff was stunned. The old woman not only didn't scold the rude child but actually encouraged her. Did you hear? My granddaughter definitely has a future. Don't look down on her because she's a girl. Are you people prejudiced against girls? I'll sue you. I stepped forward, gently speaking behind her. Aunt Diana. She trembled, slowly turned around, her eyes horrified as if seeing a demon. This is a foundation I established. How much money do you want? She panicked, dragging Emma Zhao and running away. Don't provoke her, don't provoke her. She's a demon, a demon. That's right. If Emma Zhao dares to provoke me, I'll drag her to hell too. Grace, I've been waiting for you out here. After finishing the inspection, I had just stepped out when Stephen's car was already parked in front of me. Let's go, I'll take you to dinner. I got into the passenger seat, looking out the window at my homeland that had changed dramatically after 8 years. I couldn't help but sigh. When we reached the hotel, I saw a man searching through garbage bins. He was tall, with an unkempt beard, but still looked young. I didn't know why he had fallen so low, living by scavenging. I gave him a 100 yuan bill. Get a full meal, then find a decent job. He stood frozen, staring at me intently. When he took the money, his hand trembled, but throughout the process he never said thank you. Grace, let's go. Stephen extended his hand and I stepped forward to take it. As we entered the glass elevator, I saw the scavenger still looking in my direction. I tilted my head and asked, could it be someone we know? Stephen replied coldly, just an irrelevant person. True strength lies not in seeking revenge against those who wronged us, but in choosing to break cycles of cruelty and create genuine love in our own lives. These stories reveal how withholding affection and manipulating others ultimately destroys everyone involved, the abandoned, the favored, and the abandoners themselves. The most profound victory isn't making others suffer, but building authentic relationships and finding peace within ourselves, regardless of the injustices we've endured.